What's going on, everybody? Welcome. Today is Tuesday. It's September 6th, 2022. My name is Jeremy. This is my first cup. Good morning, Nathan. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Mark and Andrew, and all the rest of you, whether you're watching live later or listening. Thank you for coming by. Shout out, thank you as always to Josh for our wonderful theme music and to Frank for all the work he does behind the scenes, making sure we have good stuff to talk about and so much more. How was your weekend? 3 days it's been since I've seen any of you. And well, I guess it's closer to 4 if we count calendar days, right? Friday through Monday to Saturday, Sunday to Monday. Yeah, 4 days. It's been just shy of 4 days, 47 and a half hours since I talked to most of you. And what's gone on? What has happened? How was your Labor Day weekend? Did you do things that were enjoyable? Did you have to work? Did you clean up around the house? Did you take naps? Did you sleep in? I did the latter too. Actually, technically, I didn't take a nap. I went to bed early and got up late, and it was wonderful, and I feel rested. And it's what I needed. Easier to do on a rainy day than on a nice day. So this weekend for me was a lot of travel, a lot of personal stuff going on. Started, well, let's see, Friday, because I didn't see you guys on Friday. So Friday morning, packed up my stuff in the hotel, drove over to Andrew's, hung out with Andrew, did a bit of Superfoot training with him and his friend Abby, who is teaching at Free Training Day, Northeast. Lots of Free Training Day updates going on. Crashed over on his couch and drove to Maine, was in Maine Saturday and part of Sunday, and then back here and just kind of hung out the back half of Sunday. And Monday I unpacked the car and did some laundry and just kind of enjoyed hanging out with no agenda. It's what I needed after Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 4 or 5 days on the road, depending on how you want to look at it. Good morning, Andy. Have a good day yourself. Good morning, Gad. Gad says, thanks for the energy boost yesterday. For sure. Put out a great episode of Martial Arts Radio yesterday. Andrew says, Superfoot training and dinner with a good friend on Friday. Hey, that's me. Then a Highland Games on Saturday. Yesterday was a well-deserved day off with a day of board games. Oh, that sounds like a good time. Yeah, yesterday's episode of Martial Arts Radio with Matt Erlin. Somebody that I knew very quickly would become a friend. And that's something that happens within the context of martial arts. And it happens at Free Training Day. I met Matt. Matt attended All In Weekend. And he stuck out. There was just something about his energy. And I pointed it out to Andrew, and Andrew agreed. And I said, I like this guy. And we chatted a bit, and we invited him on the show. Knock on wood, he will be at Free Training Day Northwest. So I'm super excited about that. And the episode came out great. And the feedback on it has been great. And I appreciate that because we work hard. Stacy says over the weekend, the Kicks and Flicks team met, did a bunch of whistlekick emails and research, listened to Erlen's episode. Busy weekend. Sounds it. But good. Here's a question for all of you. When you think about a really good weekend or a really good day, let's forget about work. Let's forget about a good day at work. Let's just say a good day. Pardon me. I'm probably going to keep doing that personally. It could have been yesterday if you took yesterday off. It could be a generic Saturday or Sunday. When you look at that day and you say, man, that was a really good day. Was there a lot of stuff that you did that day that just happened to be really good stuff? Or was it a really good day because you didn't do anything and you relaxed? Now, for me, my best days have a lot of stuff. I don't relax easily. Yesterday was challenging. Well, until I finished. It was easy while watching the first two episodes of The Rings of Power on Amazon. Holy cow, they're doing a great job with it. Shout out to all the people involved in that. It is a worthy continuation in the universe, that universe from the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films. They did a great job. It's probably a good thing that they didn't have the full series released at once, because I would have sat in the couch. I would have been in the couch by that time and watched the whole thing. I cranked through the first two. I took a couple short breaks to. It's like, okay, I'll wait till after this scene, and then I'll go put my dishes away. Little stuff to motivate myself. Awesome, awesome show. Dennis is driving to work. Jenny says she lost track of time. Yoga was awesome. Brian says, Saturday I put new quote racing plugs in the GTI and changed the oil and flashed it to stage 1. Excuse me. Sunday, my father, myself, and my son went to pick up some projects for the house: lawnmower, snowblower, weed whacker, and small compressor. All look decent, shouldn't take much to fix back up for use. Renee just about finished painting the bathroom, and her dad helped us pull the tongue and groove pine from the second floor. It was too much. Going sheetrock instead, except for the accent wall we left. I hope there are before and after pictures. I'd like to see them. The challenges of home ownership. Andrew says, from what I've been told, if you've read The Similarian, you would hate the new show. If you haven't, then it's good. I have not. I didn't even know it existed. Gad says, been busy. Man, the computer's running really slow. I hope it's not affecting what you guys get to see. I'm going to have to reboot after this episode. Come on. Come on. Any day now. And I will say that they absolutely knocked it out of the park with who they cast. Just everybody is just solidly chosen. Here we go. Gad says, been busy working on something I've been thinking of doing for more than a year. Starting my own YouTube channel, focusing on helping people with studying and understanding Mandarin Chinese. This Saturday, I thought, no more thinking, time for doing. Well, I applaud that approach. Sometimes you just have to do it, even if you don't know what you're doing, how you're doing. If you just have to take action. Action can build momentum. We've talked about it in the context of, should I go to class? I'm a little sore. I'm a little tired. My head's not in it. Just go. Just go. How often do we regret actually going to class, actually regret training? It's very rare. Kelly says, I agree with you about the Rings of Power. Too bad so many, quote, haters, but haters will be haters no matter what. It's true. And good morning to you, Lou. Lou says, good morning. Hope everyone's doing fine today. Popped in a few times earlier, but it didn't look like you were on yet. Every day, 6:30. But it also, who knows, might mean that things are running behind in the world of the internet. So I did go live at 6:30 from my clock. Jenny says, pounded away at book-related work this weekend. Let's just sum it up by saying I'm learning a lot, and it should get easier from here. P.S. Not the special edition Hopkick stuff. That part is going very well, and book will release on September 21st. So just over 2 weeks in the special edition of Master Hopkick. Brian says, yes, the stream is glitching out some. Well, that's a bummer. I'm gonna blame the computer. But maybe at some point here I'll get a different device. I'm using this crummy Chromebook, or maybe I just need to be better about rebooting it. Stacy says, the Similarian gave the name to the band I chose my middle name from. Love that band, Marillions Kaylee. Okay. That's a few hops in there, but I think I followed it. Kelly says, Gad, my daughter's a trilingual major with Mandarin being one of them. Could you send me the YouTube? Oh, that's a crosstalk. I will leave that alone. Oh, Lou says, thought we were going 6. Nope. Nope. 6 is just a little bit too early for me and a little bit too early for a lot of people. We've been doing 6:30 for a while. Dennis is going to blame the rain. It's a good thing. I think that works. Or there's almost a Creedence song in there. And Brian says we also helped. But Dad changed his cabin air filter and serpentine belt in his Beetle. Ooh, a new Beetle or an old Beetle? Huge nest to vacuum out under the dash. Okay, so I'm guessing it's an old Beetle. Well, that's cool. You and your Volkswagens. It's people are passionate about Volkswagens. More power to you hey, you know, here's an interesting correlation. In the martial arts, people will pick on other people for doing other things, for being passionate about things that they are not. Happens in the car world too. You know, this person's a Volkswagen person. This person's I don't know, a Honda person. There aren't a whole lot of Toyota people, but at least not when you get really into the enthusiast stuff. What's another example? BMW. People get real passionate about BMWs. But they don't seem to get, and maybe this is because I'm not in it, and others might correct me, but it doesn't seem to get as nasty in the car world as it does in the inner reaches of the martial arts world and people getting really mad. Oh well. That's not what we do. We don't do that here. We are style agnostic. You do what works for you, and as long as you're not hurting anybody else while you're doing it, keep going. All right. Well, I think it's time to change gears. You can all feel free to keep letting me know what you've done in the last 47 and a half hours. No, 95. And see, I did the math wrong at the beginning of the show. Nobody corrected me. 95 and a half hours since I've seen you. And I'll read it and put some of it up on the screen. You can also let me know what's going on today. Today is basically a Monday for me. It's all the meetings I would have had yesterday got moved to today. So I'm just going to struggle to hang on and just have a whole bunch of meetings. I'm not getting any work done today. Just meetings. Meetings are important, but I got a lot of meetings. All right. Now, Frank did give us something to talk about, and I appreciate that. This past Sunday was International Taekwondo Day. I didn't even know that was a thing, but it does sound vaguely familiar, I guess. So I'm guessing we celebrated this last year. International Taekwondo Day is celebrated annually on September 4th. The observance was initiated by World Taekwondo, formerly known as the World Taekwondo Federation, which was changed because their acronym was WTF. And it took them something ridiculous like 8 or 10 years to actually process that change, which I find funny. Of course, the very first celebration of International Taekwondo Day was held in South Korea, the country where this martial art originated from. Traditional Korean martial arts began to emerge during the Three Kingdoms period, i.e., more than 2,000 years ago. However, Taekwondo can't boast of such a long history, even if some people tell you it can. Its formation began shortly after World War II, when new martial arts schools called kwans opened in Seoul. Taekwondo was based on traditional Korean martial arts traditional Korean martial arts. I can't read this morning, and incorporates elements of Chinese martial arts and karate. It is characterized by its emphasis on kicks. If you know old school Taekwondo, if you've followed lineage, we've talked about this on the show many times. Taekwondo basically started as Shotokan karate. To say that frustrates some people, but it's true. If you look at the forms, if you get really deep into them, and you know Shotokan, you can see it. World Taekwondo officially designated September 4th as International Taekwondo Day at the General Assembly in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam in 2006. Such a date was chosen because on this day in 1994, the International Olympic Committee officially adopted Taekwondo as an Olympic discipline after being, the only demonstration sport twice Yeah. Shouldn't have been a demonstration sport twice, but it was because politics. It was contested as an official Olympic sport for the first time at the 2000 Summer Olympics in Sydney, Australia. International Taekwondo Day is widely celebrated in South Korea and abroad. It is marked with competitions, demonstrations, concerts, and other events for martial artists and anyone interested in or fascinated by this martial art. Boom. So those of you, including me, who train Taekwondo or have trained Taekwondo or have some affinity for Taekwondo, happy Taekwondo Day. Well, I guess Lou's a car guy as well. Responds to my question earlier. Some guys in the auto scene are maniacal about the subject and get downright nasty. Those are the ones I avoid. Yeah. Jenny says, a killing art. Yep. Andrew says, it's really Korean karate. It was. It's changed, right? And it depends on what you're doing because it continued to evolve towards the goals that were set out for it. If you have a chance to train Tong Sudo, it looks much more like those original Shotokan roots, those first gen, from what I've been able to put together, those first gen Korean Taekwondo, Kwan, whatever you want to call it, roots. Whereas Taekwondo moved a little bit further, and it's just, yeah, it's interesting. I find the lineage interesting. All right. I feel like I'm not doing a good job. I ran out of something to say. Did I really forget how to do this after 3 days? Maybe. Well, let me do this. I'm finding a topic. Let's talk about this then. Is it inevitable? And is that a good thing or not? That when a student progresses enough, goes off and opens their own school, is it possible for that person to teach exactly what was taught to them, or is there always going to be some variation? That's question one. And follow up, if it is inevitable that variation, exists, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing, or does it depend? I think I've phrased the question strongly enough that you can start thinking about it. I think it's inevitable. I think it's a martial arts lineage is a big game of telephone. Some things were changed intentionally, other things were changed accidentally. The number of times that I've seen people teach a form that's a little bit different than what their instructor taught them, it just kind of proves that to me. It's all inevitable that there are going to be small changes. And if there are going to be small changes in forms, there are going to be small changes in concepts, especially since concepts tend to be, in my experience, the stuff that's held back the most, not intentionally, but because concept requires conversation. And most martial arts classes are taught in a mixed format. You've got higher and lower ranked students, and instructors don't generally want to confuse younger students, newer students, with concept. This is one of the reasons I think higher ranked classes are important, so you can get into some of the concept, the intellectual, the mental, the thoughtful elements within arts. We tend to forget, I think some of us tend to forget, that there are philosophies within martial arts and what is done, how is done, that a lot of people teaching don't even know because they were never taught. And I think for me, that's the stuff I find most interesting. Stacy says to Andrew, but I think it's interesting, one of my most treasured Taekwondo books. It's a 1968 book, barely held together by string at the moment. The title is Korean Karate. And Mark's responding to my question. I hope not. We all have our own take on everything. I completely agree. Jenny says, I'd be surprised if anyone can robotically retain and teach exactly what they were taught to the next generation. So my inclination is to say that variation is inevitable. Dennis says, my first black belt was in Jido-Kwan Taekwondo, and we did the Shotokan forms. Jido-Kwan is translated way of wisdom, which is how I selected my school name. Oh, I didn't know that, man. Gad says he started out in ITF, which is a branch of Taekwondo, and for those of you who are not Taekwondo people, it is the tightest to General Choi, who is considered one of or the, depending on your school of thought, founder of Taekwondo. It's the closest to that lineage. Started out at 11, then because of moving house, crossed over to WTF, which was the first big offshoot. Definitely more into the self-defense aspect of Taekwondo because it has all the elements that can be used in a conflict. It's not just foot fencing, but due to the more Olympic style, it has gotten a bad rep. If people only remain open-minded and dig a little deeper, they will see it's a complete martial art. And yeah, roots are in karate no matter how you try to deny it. Jenny says, heck, even my association, each school has a slightly different take on each form. Ah, see? Proof. It happens. Now, I think there's something to be said for seeing that variation and being conscious about it. So here's a great example. If each school in Jenny's association teaches forms a little bit differently, there are two ways to look at that. One, if they all are under the same umbrella, then there should be standardization, and whoever's in charge of the association should bring those forms in line as closely as possible so they are the same. The other way to look at it is this form is a framework. It should be as close as it can be, but it should also reflect the individual philosophies of the owners, the head instructors of the member schools. You could say the same thing about, let's say, basketball. I often come back to basketball because it's a sport that even if you don't play and you don't know at a deep level, you can generally understand. It doesn't take much watching of pro basketball to see that different teams have different styles, different defensive styles, different offensive styles. Some teams are much more patient. They take a lot of time. Some teams look to set up for three-point shots. Other teams look to drive in aggressively and draw fouls. A lot of different styles. There's no right or wrong answer. Now, there are styles that will work better against various defensive styles, but you can see it. Now, if somebody changes teams, they may have a hard time adapting to that new style, but quite often, if you follow the press and talking about prospective trades, rumored trades, recent trades, a lot of the conversation has to do with how a particular player will work within that new team's offense. Oh, they're going to fit in well because of this reason or that reason. And I think that that's really interesting. I think there's something to that within martial arts that we don't generally get. We don't generally have conversation on that at that level. Kelly says, definitely not the same from one instructor to the next. Just watch higher belts teach a pattern. We did an exercise testing that theory. Groups created new patterns and then tried to teach it. I think that if you allow forms to be that learning the form and what moves come next, if that is not the be all end all of the form, if that is instead the framework and the precursor to being able to learn what the techniques are doing, I think it matters a lot less. Because if somebody understands, hey, I'm going to do this technique and then I'm going to change directions over here and I'm going to defend this sort of thing and then respond in this sort of way, then the detail of what they're doing becomes a little bit less important. I've spoken ad nauseum on this show, on Martial Arts Radio. As you become more advanced, it's the space between the moves that matters most. It's timing, it's breathing, it's how you transition in stance from one movement to the next, etc. And when you're looking at a form in that way, whether a hand is, here or 3 inches to the left, doesn't matter so much. And while I'm not going to say that this is 100%, the majority of schools that I have seen that get really wrapped around the axle on your hand should be here versus 3 inches to the left are the schools that do not teach that next step on here's what you are doing, here's how you are applying it. And quite a few of the ones that do that but still want 3 inches to the left, they're teaching here is exactly the way that you are implementing these techniques. Instead of them becoming principles to learn from, it becomes another version of learning the form, which I think is a missed opportunity. Mark says, with a solid foundation, you can move from style to style. I fully agree. There's only so many ways to throw a punch. Good morning, Tommy. Tommy says, like in basketball, skill sets also play a part once the frameworks have been laid. Absolutely. Kelly says, as you know, I teach a huge range of ages. 3-year-olds doing ITF Taekwondo patterns look different than someone in their 20s and 70s. But as long as the quote performance shows strength, focus, etc., I think the pattern is the art part of martial arts. I really like that example and how you're saying that. The idea that a 3-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 70-year-old are going to do their forms exactly the same is ridiculous. So we have to look for common principles that become of value. I've explained how I evaluate forms in this way. And I had to come up with a simple way to explain this because I'm quite often helping referee at events. And for whatever reason, I tend to get the new referees stuck with me so I can train them. Maybe because I'm good at it. I don't know. Maybe because I'm trusted. It all comes down to who would you less want to get into a fight with based on what they're demonstrating. While there are closed, quote, closed competitions where the technical aspects of a form are evaluated. Did you do it correctly? Did you do it according to the way that this is laid out in this book or this association? I don't generally referee at those events. In fact, I don't know that I have, but I don't do it often. So someone could get up and say, I'm going to do form blah, blah, blah. And I recognize it, but I don't know their version. I can't score them down because they did a kick there. And I think that they shouldn't, because in the version I learned, there isn't a kick there. So what am I evaluating on? Balance, power, speed, presentation. In other words, does it look like if they got into a fight based entirely on what they showed me, they would do well? And if I'm on the fence between two people, well, based on what I just saw, who would I less want to fight? Well, that person was much more powerful, and that person was not. Okay, well, there's my answer. And this is also why so many people don't understand why in higher level competition, especially open competition, that a lot of energy, a lot of shouting and dramatic movement is what ends up winning, because that person is clearly athletic and in wonderful shape and can shout your face off. I don't want to fight that person. That person's going to take me to task much more than that person over here is doing a slow, methodical, but maybe more technically correct form. Lou says, having trained with our grandmaster, I strive to teach my students exactly what I was taught. I feel it is essential the students get what I did. Otherwise, the art becomes watered down and the essence of what it is disappears over time and becomes a mere shadow of its former self. I'm going to take a small exception to what you're saying there, Lou, because that latter part of it being watered down, that's only true if you're not putting your own stuff back into it. If it changes, and it changes because you're just letting things drop, sure. But if it changes because you have your own ideas or different interpretations, or you've cross-trained and you've got a concept that you feel should be included, then it's not watered down. It's different, and different becomes subjective. Stacy says, oh, look at, clearly this conversation worked for us. When I switched from my first Taekwondo school in the 90s to my current school, I found subtle nuances in forms. One was so hard to change how I do it. I completely get that. Jenny says, Matt, her husband, trained under the guidance of Master Lewis Marvel. Several years ago, Master Marvel left our association and eventually started his own. Matt now teaches in that newer association and has found that he needs to relearn a lot of the traditional forms that were taught in our association because they are done with subtle variations, like Basai, Jindo, Sipsu, Kunsengun, etc. There you go. Something to think about as we move forward with our day. I hope you're going to get some training in, even if it's just for a few minutes. You guys remember the 2-minute martial arts project that we did? There's a book that'll come out someday. I know it's far down on the list, Jenny. It's okay. But somebody wants to help edit that book. Somebody's got like too much time on their hands and they're like, I want to help Whistlekick work on a book. We can do that. You can always reach out to me if you want to help with stuff. I know it's a little bit weird to ask people to volunteer their help with an organization that is technically not a nonprofit, but we do it a little bit differently. Whatever you're working on, if it brings in money, I split the profit with you. Yeah. And maybe someday when we make a bunch of money, people will have more traditionally compensated roles, but we're not there yet. So someday when I don't have to work other jobs to fund Whistlekick, we'll do all these things. Alrighty. So I'm going to get going. I'm going to go start my day. I've got my first meeting in just shy of an hour. And if you want to support us, remember, we've got a few ways. You've got the discount code FIRSTCUP1 and 5 to save 15% on anything. Could even be a free training day shirt at whistlekick.com. You can check out the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. We've got our Patreon exclusive Zoom hangout this Wednesday at 9 p.m. All the details are in the Patreon, and the specific code and everything will be listed there a couple hours beforehand. But if you want the whole list, we've got the family page, whistlekick.com/family, if you are part of our family. We do the show every weekday, 6:30 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. I'm going to read Gad's comment and then end there. Gad says, every martial art can be used to defend yourself and others through form, sparring, and exercises to improve strength and balance your better self. You better yourself. A good school and teacher will help you become a stronger martial artist physically and also give you the mental guidance to show compassion and steer away from violence unless absolutely necessary. It's been said many times, I know, but I can't say it enough. Well said, my friend. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you back here tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Peace.